Hi, this is Kevin from the Lincolnwood Library here with another reference question. This one was specifically about sci-fi books, and this patron asking this question was looking for books beyond kind of the basics. They had read sci-fi in the middle grade section, they had read a lot of classics in the teen selection, and we're kind of looking for that next step up. So kind of early adult readers or books that can kind of cross over into multiple sections, or just things that are a little bit more challenging. And so I recommended a couple sci-fi, fantasy books for them. So the first one is Feed by M.T. Anderson, and this is a little bit older book. He's written a lot of other classics, and so I always kind of, if they've read a little bit of him, I always kind of recommend Feed, which is a classic kind of dystopian fantasy sci-fi book. It is an award winner, but something that kind of flies under the radar. And if you are really big into sci-fi and fantasy, I highly recommend both M.T. Anderson and Feed in particular. And then I recommended a couple other books from our adult section. One of them is Terry Pratchett's Discworld. This one is Raising Steam. I recommend all of the Discworld books. They're very accessible, very joyful and fun and interesting, and Terry Pratchett is one of the great sci-fi writers ever. And as far as world building, there's also probably 100 Discworld books, but you don't need to read them in order. So I'd highly recommend getting into that series, especially if you are kind of already tackled some of the teen books and middle grade books and want something more challenging. Discworld is a great place to start. It's a very comforting read, but very, very fun, and something that I return to all the time. And then the last one is probably the most challenging to read. It's not quite a sci-fi book, but it is kind of more fantasy. It's called Lincoln in the Bardo by George Saunders. It's a very, very highly reviewed book for adults. It's all about Abraham Lincoln and kind of the death of his son in purgatory, and there's lots of ghosts. I actually specifically recommend listening to the audiobook. It actually makes it a lot easier to follow because there's a lot of different voices coming in from these ghosts, but it is a masterful work of writing and so engaging, and really just a brilliant debut from George Saunders. And this was his first kind of full-length novel and not an essay or short story, and he is another really great writer that I highly recommend, especially if you're looking for more of a challenge. Hopefully you guys enjoy.